This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
On December 12th, Disney Plus invites you to go behind the scenes with Taylor Swift in an exclusive 6-episode docuseries.
I wanted to give something to the fans that they didn't expect.
The only thing left is to close the book.
The end of an era. And don't miss Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, the final show, featuring for the first time the Tortured Poets Department. Streaming December 12th, only on Disney Plus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats, including co-hosting this illustrious podcast with my dear friend, Mr. Jake Noonan, the Jerry Orbach to my Sam Watterson. Jake, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing, Dr. Matt?
I'm doing great. Did you understand that reference?
I did not at all.
You know, I've been trying to match our people to our guests, and because we have a very famous lawyer with us today, I went with the Law and Order spin. So Jerry Orbach was the detective on Law & Order, and Sam Watterson plays the district attorney. He also was on Grace and Frankie on Netflix, which I just was like one of my favorite shows ever.
Incredible show,
right? You know, what is it the kids use? Ship? I shipped everybody in that show. I was just like, yes, all the things.
Everybody's dating in that show. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not weird at all. And we would use the Law & Order bum bum music. Otherwise, I think it costs like $50,000 to use. So let's not do that.
We'll make our own.
Yeah.
Bum, bum.
Ooh, like legally dissimilar from, we hope. Maybe our guest today can tell us. So early in my career, when I was getting into working into more like professional organizations working around neurodiversity, I was asked to speak at a panel at a law firm about neurodiversity. And like, you're going to be on the panel with this person named Haley Moss. And I was like, well, I don't know who that is. I should look them up. And I looked them up and I was like, oh, damn, I need to know this person. And then several years later, I finally got up the courage to message that person and said, do you want to be on my podcast because we do some of the same things and you're really cool and you're like a lot cooler than me, but it's fine. That's pretty much how it sounded in my head, even though it was a normal email. But Haley was nice enough to come on the podcast today. So Haley, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here too, and don't worry, Jake, I did not get the Law and Order reference either.
Bum bum.
It's okay. It only makes me like a little feel better because my bubby used to watch Law and Order all the time, so I feel even worse not knowing. So I'm glad I'm among somebody else who feels that.
And I know so many people who love Law and Order. I had many friends who used to just watch SVU every single week, and I just never got into it.
You know, and that's fine. I always liked it because I never identified with the cops part of cop shows, like the guns kicking in the door. Like, I liked how it was like, it was a problem to solve. Like that's the part of the law that's always appealed to me, is that it's like, here are the rules. You have to play the game within these rules. Mm-hmm. So like, if you can do this and this and this, then you can get this, conviction. But if you don't do those things, you can't. So it always felt to me almost like the game Risk,
Hmm.
because I was like, okay, Risk is a, sort of a decision tree. So even as like a young kid, like 13, I was like, yeah, right. And now Sam Waterston's going to file a procedural amendment. That'll get him. And I was the coolest seventh grader on the block, let me tell you. Yeah, no, that's not it. But yeah, it's fine. No one gets my references. I'm okay with that.
I'm imagining you like playing in the recess field, being like, "Let's all do Law and Order. I'm gonna be the judge."
Dun dun.
I was just focused on the Risk component because I loved playing Risk.
Okay, so I got to ask, when you play Risk, where do you like to start?
Oh my gosh, I forgot because I haven't played Risk in a minute.
The Shire.
That is the wrong Risk, Jake.
I haven't played Risk since I was a kid, so I'm like, where did we start?
What country would you want to start with?
Ooh.
Ooh. I feel like I usually started somewhere on the European continent.
I got to a point where I was like, I will only start in Australia because starting in Australia is really hard.
Hmm.
I was like, I need to like give myself a challenge. And then you look up and you realize, oh, this is why nobody wants to play Risk with me. Because I'm like, guys, I'm so good at this. It's not a good look. I'm sure I'm not nearly as good now as I was then, but like,
Oh, neither am I.
but it's a fun game. I love it a lot. So Jake and I met when we worked at a school for gifted learners outside of Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And there was a snow day where we were all stuck in the gym, and somebody brought out a game of Risk, and you would have thought you would have thought they were giving away Jonas Brothers tickets. These kids were like, it's the most we ever saw them work together because they like sorted themselves into teams. And so everybody, because there was one board of Risk and you can only have so many players,
Hmm.
and kids who hated each other were like, no, okay, we'll be Eurasia. We're going to be on the Eurasian team. And I'm like, so Risk is the key for gifted kids to develop social skills? Sure. Sure. Why not? Right. And I remember like thinking like this is the most the school has ever gotten along. Like I didn't want recess to end. Oh gosh, that was a fun day. So Haley, please tell our audience like what is it you do? Like what are you out there in the world how are you making it a better place?
That feels like a loaded question because I wear a lot of different hats. So I am an author, I am an attorney, I am an artist, and I'm mostly proud of getting to educate and advocate about neurodiversity. So I've written several books. I was in private law practice and have not been in law practice now for 5.5 years, something like that. It's been a minute. So it's always very funny when people still come to me expecting me to give you legal advice or represent you because I am not in the position where I choose to do that. And usually a lot of the questions that I get asked are not related to things I actually have knowledge about. It's kind of like going to a doctor at a party and then you're like, can you check out this bump on my arm? And it turns out that person is a cardiologist or a neurosurgeon and probably not the person you want looking at the bump on your arm. That's kind of how I feel a lot of the time when it comes to lawyering. Is I feel like I get asked for a lot of bumps on the arm of some related thing or something that seems adjacent to what I know. And I'm like, what I do know is a little bit more specialized and also a lot of employment stuff just by virtue of what I do now. But a lot of what I want to do in the world is make it better for neurodivergent people. So I am very proudly autistic. I was diagnosed as a kid. I was a late speaker and I just want to make the world better. Like that's kind of who I am and what I do. And then outside of work is when I get to geek out about all sorts of random stuff, which was very fun getting to talk about games and Law and Order and just all sorts of things that get me excited. I feel like that's what gets lost a lot of the time in these types of conversations. So I get very, very like my ears perk up when we do get to talk about something that isn't just work.
Right?
There seems to be this thing that happens where a lot of autistic, neurodivergent, disabled, disability advocates, what have you, that we get reduced down to our disability as our whole personality.
Mm.
And it's sort of frustrating. Is I sit there, and most people who know me know this, that my autism is not my whole personality. It's a huge part of my identity and a huge part of what I do, but it is not all that I am and who I am.
And really, like for people who don't get that, like
Hmm.
we are just even like, you said, I'm a proud autistic person, right? It was like, we used to say, like, I'm a person with autism. Like we have it in a backpack and we're just carrying it around with us. Like that to me is like, it's who you are, but it's not all that you are.
Exactly.
And that kind of nuanced conversation is, well, I think what a lot of neurotypical folks don't really get is that
Hmm.
it's the operating system in your computer, but your computer can do many, many things.
Mhm.
It isn't just, this one thing. So like, if you wouldn't mind, like, tell us the story of getting diagnosed. Like, you said you were a late speaker, and like, we know that diagnosis rates with girls are a lot lower for lots of reasons, most of which are not so great. But if you don't mind telling us, like, what was that process like?
Yeah. So I was very lucky that being a late speaker or a non-speaker at the time of my diagnosis is why I got diagnosed. You also have to remember I was 3 years old and this was the 90s. And when we talk about the 90s, we know we're talking about a different time in terms of understanding and resources and just all of these different things in the autism equation. So being a non-speaker, late speaker, what have you, really does sort of open that door, especially if you are a girl. And when you are able to put together large jigsaw puzzles and clearly be able to read what is on the TV, but you are not talking, that is enough of a cause for concern. I also was kicked out of preschool. So I'm a proud preschool dropout.
It's a good hat to wear.
Preschool dropout to law school. That's a pipeline for you.
I know. I have to make light of being a preschool dropout, but I just was not hitting the same milestones as the other kids. And that was a cause for concern. My parents had me evaluated, and when we did find out that I was autistic, we didn't have that kind of knowledge base that we do now. That a lot of the support came through the university systems because they had the researchers, they had the education, they had the networks. So the ones who really connected my family was actually the University of Miami. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
And if you want to talk about that full circle moment, that's where I went to law school. So,
Oh, wow.
so yeah, UM has been a huge part of my story for that. And I served on the board of the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities there for 6 years.
I just like, who's going to play you in the movie of your life, Haley? Because that's a wild story. Like, there's so many.
That's like that's like the simplified version because I think I could just be here all day trying to tell stories, but that's the very easy mode version. I think if we did have a movie though, I'd kind of want Emma Stone.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, excellent choice. Emma Stone is a proud high school dropout, so you have that. People were like, "Are you sure Emma Stone is gifted?" I was like, "Well, when Emma Stone was trying to drop out of high school to be an actress, she made a PowerPoint for her parents and then had them sit down and then presented the PowerPoint to them." I was like, "And if that's not a gifted kid thing to do, I don't know what is." Like,
Oh, that definitely is.
Father, please, please turn to page 2 on your programs. We will be going through this.
I remember putting together an entire like argument of why I wanted a Nintendo GameCube. And it was a very hard sell because we already had a PlayStation 2.
What was your core argument?
I wish I remembered, other than I think I was really big on the Mario and Pokemon exclusives, which obviously did not come on the PlayStation.
Right.
And the PlayStation was not originally purchased for me.
Oh, no.
That was originally for my dad. But also the counter argument was I had a Game Boy.
But Game Boy and GameCube are very different.
Yes. And I say this as someone who is very big on the Switch, that a handheld versus a TV console are not the same.
No.
As much as I love them both. And I have always been partial to handheld just because travel, and then I can bring it to school when I needed to, show off and act like I was cool. Because I wasn't cool. And also if I just wanted to hang out by myself, I was still able to sneak it in my backpack.
So I've got a question for you then from that is, what were your go-to games?
I've always been huge on the Pokemon series. This is no secret whatsoever to anybody who knows me. I love Pokemon. I love the games. I love the cards. I love Pokemon. I also spent a lot of hours on pretty much any platformer generally. Oh, is that a Chonkachu? That's not quite Chonkachu. That's the surfing one from Celebrations.
It is.
Oh,
like on top of it.
Dude, she knows her shit.
Okay.
Oh my God. Hey, if you want to talk about cards, my new favorite little hobby has been, there's a beta through GameStop now that you get to basically pull PSA graded slabs for like $25.
What?
Ooh. Are they randomized?
They're randomized, so you can get something as low as $5 and as high as like $500. It's basically, I've said this for the longest time, card collecting is child gambling.
Yeah.
And now it's a new level of child gambling because now it's adult gambling.
But worse.
Yeah, because now we have money, right? So like now I can like absolutely spend like an extra $20 on Pokemon Go because sure, I'm a grown man.
Exactly. And I feel like what makes it so fun, at least to me now, is I'm like, oh, when they give you these slabs, you can sell them back to GameStop for like 90%. You can either list it on eBay through PSA or keep it in your virtual vault or have it shipped to you. And now that you can't find cards in the stores, it makes sense to me to be like, okay, what would I spend on cards if I go to Target? And I can spend that on these and then kind of have a little bit of fun and decide what I end up with. So I love cards. Thank you for geeking out. My cards are packed away right now.
I have a client who is obsessed with Pokemon cards, and part of the reason why I started getting back into it, like I've got stacks of just like cards all over, but part of why I got into it was because he was talking with me and knew that I collected cards when I was younger, and we got like real deep into like the pricing of them and like which cards were like old and how they're rare and like which ones I love, which ones he loves now. So I started ending up getting like packs to open with him at the end of every session.
That's awesome.
So like he's like real invested in everything, and then at the very end he's like, all right, we've got 5 minutes, can we open a pack? Can we open a pack? I'm so excited to see what you get. And he'll like talk me through like which card he likes, which one he doesn't, like which one he thinks is like worth keeping, which one he's like, yeah, you can throw that one out or get rid of it.
Oh my gosh. I actually had one of my speaking clients, we were geeking out on a prep call about Pokemon cards, and then I got to the event and he gave me a Japanese Charmander from the 151 set, and I was just like, you are so cool.
It's like the full art one.
It was the full art one. He's like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna want firm swag, but you and I, we had a moment, and I was just like, you were incredible.
That is a capital M moment.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That my Japanese Charmander is in a place of honor right now.
Has to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, same thing. Like I got into Pokemon Go to have someone to talk about with the kids at the school. And then after a while, I realized, I was like, oh no, I actually just like this.
Yeah.
We have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so like when they were fussy, I would just stick my phone in the holder in the stroller, put my kid in the stroller, and I would be playing like the music she liked while I pushed her around the neighborhood catching Pikachus. And it was like, everybody wins in this situation, right?
Exactly. And I think that's kind of like what Access really is anyway, at the end of the day, is that everybody wins.
Yeah.
I also loved Go. So I loved Go, especially when I was walking around airports and trying to figure out where to go, because airports are really fun to play in.
Yes.
And if you're on a university campus, like there's certain places that are just meant to be playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
I go through phases where I don't play it for months or even a year, and then I will be playing it everywhere I go.
And like you and I spend a lot of time in airports. So I like it's, you know, there's a new map feature where you can see where you've checked in places. And it's like, you can see like, where's the airport in this state? Cause there's just a little dot of like, like I got all the ones in Pittsburgh. I was just in Pittsburgh. So it was just like, there's a little circle of stuff in Pittsburgh. And then there's like nothing. And then there's a circle of stuff in Morgantown, West Virginia, where I happen to be, which is actually on a college campus. So that's exactly the two places we were talking about. And there's like a universal body language to it where you're like walking with your phone out and like sort of also looking around. Like, it's really great. It's really great.
My body language just always is confusing on that because I'm a lefty. So I'm always winding it up with my left hand, and most people are doing it opposite. Like when you're winding up the ball to catch the Pokemon.
Wow. My body like doesn't understand left-handed things. It's like
most people don't. They're just like, you're doing everything wrong, or this just seems so unnatural. I feel like being left-handed is the perfect explanation of the neurodivergent experience a lot of the time. It might not be that full level of truly disabling in everything you do, but it's also kind of different enough to most people they don't get it.
And the world's not really made for it, too.
And the world doesn't plan for you to be left-handed.
Everything's right-handed.
Exactly. That being a lefty is I would say it's socially disabling. Like it doesn't rise to the level of disability, but socially it is. That everything is still designed for righties. If you've ever been in school and you had to sit at those desks, even when I go to dinner or a meal with people, I will plan where at the table I sit so I'm not bumping into you. Like righties don't think about that. They just don't. But when you're left-handed, you're like, oh, I got to sit closer to the window or the edge of the table so I'm not bumping into you when I'm cutting something.
I have a question for you off of that, like with your experience being left-handed growing up, and specifically because I taught in South Korea, and when I was there, I taught a bunch of kindergartners, and they were 5 and 6. And
Mm-hmm.
the culture there and what they were doing in the school was trying to have everybody be right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite kids was like incredible, really smart, struggled with fine motor skills, and was left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always getting, like, in a sense, bad grades, quote unquote, because he was writing left-handed, which was already a bad thing, and he was struggling with his fine motor skills. So he's already like doubly, held down. And I'm curious for you, like, what your experience was like growing up. Was it to the point where some people are like, you can't be left-handed, let's adjust that? Or was it more of like accepted, understood, and it's just like, this is perfectly fine. Let's adjust the world around you so that the left-handedness is, in a sense, quote, normalized, if you will?
I don't think being a lefty was ever one of those things that was really a cause for concern when I was growing up, but I definitely think it impacted my fine motor skills, which were already not great, as so many young autistic kids deal with. It's just, I think there was an extra layer of planning of how to improve on that because things were backwards. And then, of course, the biggest shame of my life is that I was not an athlete, because that is one of the few places that being lefty might be somewhat of an advantage. I very much learned that because so kind of like how you learned how to play Pokemon Go to understand your clients, I learned how to play baseball on the PlayStation because of my partner, because I wanted to understand why they were so into it. And then I ended up enjoying it. And then when I played MLB The Show, I was like, oh, yeah, when you throw out a left-handed pitcher, it really freaks them out. Like, okay.
I love that.
Like, I learned so much. And then everyone I knew was like, we struggled to hit with with the lefty players. I'm like, oh, these were the only ones that make sense to me. They're usually the better players in the game too.
And that is love, right? That is absolutely love.
Love is that I learned a lot about baseball and I never cared about baseball.
And it's so funny because, like, there's a certain, like, have you ever heard the expression pebbling?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like how penguins bring pebbles, like,
Yes.
and I feel like in all my best relationships, it's like, hey, I don't understand this as much as you do, but I saw this thing and it made me think of you because I think you like this thing, so have this pebble.
Yep.
People are like, oh, yes, that is a thing I like. I'm like, oh, good. Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, if we do pebbling, I am emotional if someone pebbles with me. Like, I'm like, you really thought, you listened. You thought of me, like you really tried.
Well, because, like, when you're a neurodivergent person, I think one of the ways you learn to navigate that social dynamic is if I show up for other people, if I become indispensable because I give care and gifts and presents, like, no, don't worry about me. I'm just happy to be included.
Yep.
When someone turns around and pebbles you back, it's like, oh, holy shit. Like, I matter too. And it's a profound moment.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when we pebble, it gets so misunderstood as like you're love bombing or you're being overprotective or you're trying to like be possessive. And it's like, no, I just want you to understand. I want you to know that I'm really trying to understand you. Like when I talk about baseball on the PlayStation, I didn't care. I just wanted to understand, why is this a game that takes so many hours that you feel very excited about, and I just don't get it. And of course, the neurodivergent tradition is you're like, oh, this is kind of fun, and now I got to be better at it than everybody else.
I will be the best baseballer in the world.
I mean, I don't know if it's much of an achievement to say that I know how to play baseball on the PlayStation and I'm not bad at it and I don't strike out every time, but
There's competitions out there, I'm just saying.
they actually do have the whole like online stuff, but I don't play online. I don't have that kind of time. And it has card collecting. That's how you got me to start. It has card collecting. If you ever played Madden or any sports games, they're all like card collecting. Except your card collection's obsolete after a year.
And talk about like neurodivergent, like seeing the angles. Like as a kid, everybody collected sports cards, and growing up, I was a big New Jersey Nets fan,
Okay.
the professional basketball team, and the Nets traditionally have sucked. They've been like one of the worst teams in pro basketball history. So when we would do, I wanted to collect everybody on the Nets, every Nets card ever made, because once again, gifted ADHD, like need the thing.
Yep.
I would make lopsided trades with my friends to get the cards I wanted. And my parents would be like, why are you doing that? I was like, because my friends are going to throw those cards away. And when they're ready to do that, I'll just take them back. And it happened like every time. My mom was like, you're not a sociopath. I'm like, no, I just understand how people are. Because like, they're not hyper-focused on this because I am.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy David would be like, oh man, just take these cards back. I'm like, and I still have somewhere behind me my giant binder of like every Nets player from like 1977 to 2003 when I stopped collecting. And it's like a ridiculously impressive binder of like stuff that only made sense to me,
Mhm.
but it made me so happy, right?
And that's all that matters. It's not about, oh, the value of the card or whatever. It's like, what's the ones that make you happy? I always liked completing the sets because I liked feeling like I was able to complete something. And then I started, at least like with Pokemon, I always liked collecting the trainers. I liked the people.
Mm.
Interesting.
I thought they stood out. And then, of course, like the fandom gets kind of weird about the cards with the people. And you're like, I just want the people. I don't care about the genders of the people. I just want the people. I love anime people. Yes, sign me up. And I played all the games. I know who all these people are.
Which Pokemon game is your favorite?
Oof. So I do think the best of all time are still Gold, Silver, and Crystal.
Yes. 100%.
What?
But I think I've put the most hours objectively in my life into Diamond and Pearl. Probably because I was an awkward middle schooler. I don't know, but and then I played the remakes. I was like, these were harder than I remember. But the mainline games have gotten a lot easier as time goes on. I don't know if that's that I've gotten better or they just have to dial them down for today's generation of youth. But I'm convinced they've gotten easier.
They definitely have. The competition has not gotten easier, though.
I have to make the mainline games harder for myself to make them more than just like a quick cruise through. So I'll like ditch the starter after a certain amount of time or do a theme team, like anything to make it a little bit more difficult.
I did one run through of Gold and Silver where all I did was use a Crobat.
My God.
How'd that go?
Really well. I love Crobat.
I do too.
And I also did Red and Blue where I beat the entire Elite Four with just a Jigglypuff.
That's how it should be.
Right?
Yeah, like multiple Jigglypuffs or just a
Just one.
Just one?
Just one Jigglypuff.
I mean, that must have been so OP. I can't even wrap my head around it.
Mm-hmm. My last theme team that I did was for Scarlet. I did all dogs. So I think I had like Fido. I think I had Mabostiff. I remember doing all the dogs. Or dog like Houndoom was on my dog team. Like if it was a four-legged thing that could be construed as canine, it was on my team.
Low key, Fido is my favorite newer Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
I was like Gen 1, like I worked at a video store when the cards came out and kids would be coming in buying the cards and we had a poster up and I just memorized them. And like, I'll always be a Gen 1 guy at heart, Pokemon Red and Blue.
Oh, me too.
But like, of the new ones, I'm like, wow, he's a little donut creature and I love him. And I just, so yes.
That's why all of us card collectors lost our minds when they released the 151 set. I think that was like 2 years ago.
It's still huge, too.
I know, but I remember doing 151. I can't even tell you how many hundreds of dollars I spent trying to do 151. And I did finish it.
Wow.
But I remember going to GameStop on release day and I pre-ordered like 10 of the boxes because you can only get the cards from the boxes or the promotional products. And as far as Fido goes, Fido is awesome. I actually have a Fido sticker on my computer that you can't see. But that came with one of the other sets of cards that they had the shiny Fido stickers. So I have a shiny Fido that is peeling a little bit on the back of my computer. And there's always some nice person who will always go, is that a Pokemon? And I'll be like, yes.
It is the Pokemon.
Every time someone lets me geek out about Pokemon, I get very excited because usually it doesn't happen at work. And usually the only people who I'll bring it up in like a speech or something, and then there will always be a parent who asks on behalf of their child like what my favorite Pokemon is. And then it's like, are we talking about my favorite card? Are we talking about my favorite in the games? Are we talking about my favorite just based on vibes?
Yes.
Because vibes is important.
My favorites on vibes are not the same that I would actually want to play with. Like my favorite on vibes is like Gardevoir.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
And yet on like ones I actually enjoy playing with and are things like Ninetales and Vulpix and just fire Pokemon generally. Oh yeah, Arcanine was on my dog team. Jake is coming in with the Vulpix on screen.
My brother 3D prints a bunch of like Pokemon stuff for me and my friends.
I only got to use a 3D printer once and it was like life-changing to me. We printed a fidget spinner. It took like 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. I want so badly to run upstairs because I was just at a homeschool conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they had these like spiky lizard fidget toys that they were printing, and like you can customize like the amount of spikes and how sharp they are and the color, but it's got this like clickiness to it, and you can wobble it, and it's like the texture's really great.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you guys have unlocked something here. Like, oh, and the best part is you get to make your own. I was like, stop.
Yep. hmm
So, all right, I can't believe I'm the person who's about to do this. I think we need to steer the bus out of Viridian City back onto legal highway.
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed in myself. What have I become?
it's okay. I appreciate it because you know what happens when you get a bunch of neurodivergent people in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
We will just continue rabbit holing. Okay. So you get diagnosed. You said you were awkward middle schooler. Who among us was not? And then like, did you hit your stride in high school? Did you hit your stride in college? Like, when did you start thinking like, oh no, there's a lot going for me here. How am I going to use this?
Great question, because objectively, the answer was probably that middle to high school bubble when I started writing and speaking about autism. And also, I got outed by an English teacher my freshman year of high school. So I feel like
No.
that sort of I know who I am and I'm not like uncomfortable with autism's type stuff around that 13 to 14 age. But I feel like I really hit my stride as a human being when I got to law school. I feel like college was just tough for me too, like emotionally being away, transitioning. I feel like even now, I feel like I'm hitting my prime at this point in life. Like I don't think I peaked in high school. I don't think I peaked in college. I don't think I peaked in law school. Like I think I'm hitting that now, where I feel a lot more confident, a lot more self-assured, a lot less likely to second guess myself and realizing, I could do things because I want to. And I know we were talking about that a little bit before we started recording about making decisions for yourself and doing things that are accomplishments just for you and not really for your professional life or community or somebody else. And I say this as someone who will say I'm a recovering people pleaser. And I still struggle with people pleasing, but I'm trying to do better at, I can do things because I want to. So I feel like I hit my stride, so to speak, at this point in my life, mostly, but I do think it's been quite the journey.
And I mean, I wouldn't be much of a podcast host, so I didn't ask. So you got outed.
hmm
Like, we talk a lot on this show about how similar the stories of the queer community and the neurodivergent community are, right? There's a real parallel there because you can get outed in both situations. So like,
Absolutely.
how did you get outed? If you feel comfortable telling the story.
Oh yeah, I've told the story 1,000 times, and that parallel between those two communities is so real that it also probably explains why all of my friends at that age were also queer, because we had this kind of understanding. And I feel like the theater is the ultimate refuge of the neurodivergent and the queer kids, or if you're at the intersection of both.
Yeah, right.
Like that is a whole other tangent that I would love to go on another time. But as far as getting outed, I was doing an art show and I was really excited about it. And part of my proceeds from the show were going to go to the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities that we talked about earlier, because they diagnosed me. They've been there my whole journey. Like it made sense. And I hand the flyer to my English teacher because I wanted people to care. And I just was really proud of this, that it was going to be in Miami. I grew up in the suburbs. So getting to go to Miami and do a show in Miami was like a big deal.
Yeah, huge.
And I remember he wants me to talk about it in front of the class. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'll talk about my show. Like maybe someone will go, even though I didn't really expect anyone to go because, I wasn't exactly popular by any stretch. And I talk about my show, what my plan is and what's going on. He's like, you're also raising money for this organization. Can you tell us why? And me being the very autistic, not a good liar, justice-oriented human being that I am, has maybe 2 seconds to make a decision of what to do and say. And I think the only answer is the truth. So I basically have to explain, like, I have autism. And I'm like, wow, this was not the conversation I planned on having today. I was already writing my book. I was planning on using a fake name and everything. Like, I did not want to go down this rabbit hole. But it really did change things for the better that it happened that way. It just wasn't the plan that I had. But no regrets. And people actually did go to my show.
Oh, hey.
I think I had 2 classmates that actually went, which was really cool.
That is amazingly cool, honestly. And going back to it, do you think that teacher was trying to help you in a misguided neurotypical way? Or do you think that was there some sort of...
I don't know. I still am grateful for that. I don't think it was to try to get me to share something that I didn't feel comfortable with looking back. I think it was a genuine question, even though he knew the answer.
Gotcha.
I could have came up with, oh, I care about the community. I could have just said something else because you know how high schoolers are. Or he wanted to just test the waters and maybe have a broader conversation. I really don't know. But it's something that I try to be really mindful of whenever I even talk about workplace disclosure. I always tell people, like, ask who knows or who you can talk about this with because you don't want to inadvertently out someone professionally either. Like, it's not cool when you do that. We all know, even from when we talked about the LGBTQ community, it's not cool when you do that either. Like, it's the same, it's very parallel experience.
I'm a big Food Network fan.
Mhm.
And I remember years ago, Ted Allen, who hosts Chop on Food Network, accidentally outed Anne Burrell.
Mhm.
And afterwards, he was like, I'm so sorry. If anybody should know better than this, it's me. He's like, but that's just, we've been so queer together for so long. I just forgot that other people didn't know that. Like, I think about that story a lot because especially supporting kids in schools, it's like I might know, and their gifted teacher might know, and their theater teacher might know, but maybe nobody else knows. And
Yeah.
like even though psychology has this reputation as like the soft science and law is like this very like cut and dry thing,
Mhm.
confidentiality is fundamental to what we both do,
Absolutely.
right? We have to hold our people's secrets. When I like watch your work, in the public space, I'm like, this is a person who gets it, what it's like to hold a meaningful secret and only display that information when you are given permission to do so.
Exactly.
That's so important for people to be able to trust you.
Yeah, I know. And I also like being very open about my autism for me is I like to be in control of the narrative in that regard because I think so many people, based on diagnosis or presumed diagnosis, try to make assumptions about who you are and what you stand for without actually knowing you. So I would rather beat you to the punch. I would rather you get to make assumptions about who I am and what I stand for after listening to me talk about the things that make you have those ideas, rather than you just automatically assuming you know exactly who I am and what I stand for without actually talking to me or listening to what I have to say.
I have a question from that is because it's definitely not easy to get outed in, you said it was freshman year of high school, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not easy to get outed in your freshman year of high school and then instantly shift to like I'm going to control the narrative. So like,
oh no,
what was that transition period for you where it's like you are outed, that discomfort's there, to now I'm controlling the narrative?
So you have to also remember I am now 31. I was 14 when that happened, but I was already in the process of writing. I knew I wanted to tell my story. I just didn't know how that would go. And I realized, you know what, if something I did can help someone else, then it's worth it. That's the main reason I decided to stay public with and attaching my name and likeness and everything to it, is I just wanted to help other people. And I'm like, if something real can help someone else, that's worth it to me. I did not think about the repercussions of having this following me throughout my entire life, essentially, of that my autism might be the first thing that somebody knows about me and probably will be the first thing that a lot of people know about me. And that's also why the older I got, it did become that I want to be the one who decides who I am and what I stand for on my terms and have you go based on the facts rather than some misconception. And a lot of that also came when the press got very excited about me becoming an attorney, that they were deciding who I was without talking to me. And I didn't like that. That they were trying to make this whole thing of once you were nonverbal, now you're an attorney. And I'm like, that's not what I want people to care about. I want people to care about my community. I want people to know that journey is not that oversimplified. I want people to do better for the neurodiverse community that they encounter on a daily basis, whether it's their loved ones, whether it's someone they work with, someone they know, or someone they just don't understand very well. So I was always trying to not necessarily control the narrative, but be like, hey, let's gently push this conversation forward somewhere else. I don't want it to be about me. I don't think it's exceptional, relatively speaking, that I'm an attorney. I know that sounds very controversial to some people when I say that because they're like, well, it's still a huge accomplishment. I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting that it's a huge accomplishment for anyone, let alone if you are neurodivergent or autistic or have a disability, because there's so many extra barriers to access to even get to this point. But it's not exceptional in the fact that it never happens. Of course it does. I remember looking it up one time, and there were over 100,000 lawyers in the state of Florida alone, which didn't make me feel very special. So I was like, there's so many of us who probably just don't talk about these things. I can't be the only one in 100,000 people. There's no way. And I have been proven correct time and time again by people who have never said anything in their whole career, by people who figured it out later in their career because they didn't have the access to diagnoses, what have you. Like there's so many factors that go into these things. And for me, that's been a huge part of it too, is being like, let's just have a conversation about things that matter because I want this to be about more than me. I'm glad to be the person that makes it relatable or educate you, but I don't want this to be about Haley Moss because I'm not that full of myself. I am still a private person with a public life. And I think that's always how it is. There's that, and I think that's how it should be. I think for a lot of us to do advocate in public is you have a whole private life outside, and then you have your public life. And I think that's really interesting for me to navigate and kind of interesting when we were talking about before at one point about how people think autism is your whole personality. And I know people think that because I do keep a lot of my private life private.
And just to draw a parallel here, right? Like I have ADHD
Mhm.
and I became a psychologist, and no one ever says to me, it's amazing you became a psychologist with ADHD, right? It's like not all neurodivergences are treated equally in
Oh.
terms of barriers to entry, right?
Mhm.
And it is when you enter the public space,
Mhm.
you lose control over the narrative to a certain extent, right? Like,
Mhm.
if I'm, the local news, I'm like, wow, the story sells itself, nonverbal to lawyer, great,
Absolutely.
right? Roll the B-roll. But it's like there's so much more to you than that.
Mhm.
So like I find, and I'm not nearly the level of public figure you are, but like I find that I have a very mixed relationship with people thinking I stand for certain things, that I represent a particular journey or pathway. At least for me, I try to take the good with the bad. Is that your experience?
I think that's the best way to do it is to take the good with the bad. And I am very upfront saying I'm not the spokesperson for anything. I'm not the spokeswoman for neurodiversity. I'm not the spokeswoman for autism. I am not speaking on behalf of a community. I try my best to uplift what I've heard and what I've learned, and I can also only speak for myself and my own experiences. Like that's kind of the big disclaimer, even though a lot of people, and I think media in particular, sometimes don't keep that disclaimer in mind. But then again, there's only so much nuance you can convey in a 2-minute clip because they're time limited on how much they can give a spot. So I don't fault them for that at all. It's just how do you convey that? And it takes a lot of effort to be able to convey nuance in any conversation, especially when whatever conversation you have can get turned into sound bites.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be quoted on, like, been quoted in the New York Times and New
Hmm.
York Magazine, and but I like as you do that, I was like, see, I prefer the podcast format because we can go deep, we can get nuance,
Exactly.
and you're going to listen to this episode, and it isn't like leading soundbite, like there's the bumper and let's go home. Like it's like, well, what does autism mean to you? Do you have 20 minutes?
Hmm.
What's going to be the above the fold headline? Haley Moss thinks autism is good. Like people go, oh, I guess that's what Haley thinks.
I mean, it's not a lie if you said that. It just doesn't convey any detail or any nuance that there are things that are still difficult. I could say my experience is overwhelmingly positive to some extent, and that there's still stuff that's always going to be difficult and that does kind of suck. That's no lie. That's not a lie.
And like this is where stories of neurodivergent people start to edge into that disability porn thing to me,
Hmm.
the inspiration porn.
That's also why I wanted control of the narrative because I realized very quickly my story would be inspiration porn. I'm glad that if people get to me through an inspirational narrative like that, I'm grateful for it because everyone starts learning somewhere.
Right.
That's the take that I have at this point in my life. That if you get to me through that, or even organizations or commentary that I don't agree with, but then you still want to keep learning, go for it. That's great. I don't care how you got here. I just care you landed on something that hopefully can help. And knowledge is power, and it's a blessing to get to keep learning every day.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things I think you do really well is that you call a lot of people in.
Hmm.
Like in the various things I've seen you do, it seems to be consistently like, okay, that's what you've heard. Let me take that and inform you more.
Exactly. Yeah, and I really come from that approach because a lot of us don't get it right all the time, and so many people are afraid to engage because they're afraid to get it wrong. And I am genuinely telling people I would rather you get it wrong than not try at all. Like, I know in the autism community, everybody gets up in arms about language. And you even mentioned earlier about the person with autism, autistic, the way that I described myself. I'm like, I don't care if you say about person with autism. I truly do not care. Like, would I say that about myself? No, probably not. Not at this point in my life. At another point in my life when I didn't know any different or didn't know I had a choice? Yes. But I would rather you at least try and maybe get it wrong or maybe land somewhere in the middle than be like, nope, not talking about this. And I don't get it right all the time either. I don't get it right with other people's preferences. I don't always get it right with the fact things evolve very quickly. But it's just learning and knowing. Like if you know and we can do better, that's great. We have to learn before we do anything else. Like that's kind of where I come from when it comes to calling people in. It's like we're not, no one's operating with ill intent here. We're all just trying our best. This is all everybody's first time being on this planet, most likely.
Right.
Most likely.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you believe. Depending on what you believe in, you know?
Totally fair.
Like I know it's my first time being alive, at least in this form.
Right. You know?
We can have a whole existential debate about have you truly been alive before?
Oh man, that's part 3 of the podcast, everybody. We're gonna have Haley back so many times.
I would love that.
But I mean, there can be a lot of gatekeeping in the neurodivergent community. Like you have to do this, you must do this, you can't do this.
Exactly. And I think it alienates people more than anything else because I would rather everybody realize there are so many bigger issues at play. So on the day that we're recording this, we were allegedly going to get some announcement from the current administration about what causes autism.
It's a fun one.
I am not here to talk politics, but I know that those are the things like I would rather us be like, hey, this is probably not correct based on scientific evidence, than go, you said the wrong word. I would rather work towards the bigger issues as a united front than have the inter-community fighting being and debate being the center stage. Because I think pretty much everybody in the community can get on board with, hey, it's probably not squirrels or Tylenol based on the research or whatever it is that causes autism.
And also, like, why do we see it in such a bad way that you want to prevent it to that level?
Mm-hmm. And there's also nuance on, the whole spectrum of autism, but that's not the conversation we're having today. But still, it's like I'd rather us be united on the things that matter that, hey, maybe more important than blaming whatever factor would be acceptance or decreasing stigma or more support or more research on improving quality of life. And every time someone talks to me about cure, I always say, I'm like, while I don't think there's such thing or such desire from me to have a cure-all, go be neurotypical, I welcome any research that supports and improves quality of life. Truly. If you can fix it so I can sleep 8 hours a night, amazing. Yes. Thank you. If you can make me less anxious and improve communication and understanding, I'm all for science of any kind or any kind of research that will make life better for people. Whether it's communication devices, whether it's getting 8 hours of sleep, whatever it is to make my life better or someone else's life better, I'm all for it. And I think that's a pretty rational take.
And honestly, it's an important one.
Mm-hmm.
It's I use a lot in the therapy space, the idea of what we call third door solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea is like you either can like give into this research, like the government thinks that it's Tylenol, the end, or you be like, I'm gonna march in the streets. But like the third door solution, the middle ground is like, I welcome all research as long as it's good research done with good intentions that serves to improve people's lives. And like
exactly,
I feel like, especially in the online discourse, I had to shut down an argument in the comment on my Facebook page today. People were debating about what the correct definition of eugenics is as it pertains to the autistic community. And I was like, guys, like what you're both trying to say is that the autistic community is under direct attack right now. Whether we call it eugenics technically or not is irrelevant because we need to batten down the hatches and support each other right now. But like while you guys are arguing about the dictionary definition of eugenics, the bad guys are rushing the tower. And it's like, excuse me, you're not technically correct. Ha ha ha. And then, murder. That's a bad thing.
Exactly. And then, so I'm someone who at one point was very fascinated by the history of eugenics and how it would work and things like forced sterilization laws and all those types of stuff. And I've had to explain it to people, like how that works. I don't think there's a specific definition that we can all agree on for all sorts of different things, but we can point out when we see it in its most obvious forms.
Oh man, I had the good fortune once to have a conversation with Jonathan Mooney And in his book, Normal Sucks, he talks about the history of eugenics and
Oh, he's great.
oh my God. And I'm just like sitting the entire time being like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. He's like, when was this law passed? I was like, I don't know, like the 1910s. I'm a pretty educated person. He's like, 1978, Dr. Matt. I was like, "Ah."
I'm like, I know everyone always thinks of Buck v. Bell, which is the big court case with Oliver Wendell Holmes writing 3 generations of imbeciles is enough. And then it did go up into the 70s for the most part legally, like as a matter of policy. You also got me very excited talking about Jonathan Mooney. Sorry. He was one of the first speakers I saw live once upon a time.
He's so awesome.
I saw him for the first time when I was in high school, and I was like, that's what I like. That was the first time I ever thought about speaking in any regard, really, like as a serious thing. And I was like, I want to be like that. Because he went to our local university, spoke at lunch, and was on his way home after. And I'm like, that's a great gig.
Yeah. I don't hate it.
Mm-mm. Have either of you looked at the research that they're quoting for the Tylenol thing at all?
Not quite.
Because I found like the actual research document from like whatever specific journal it was, and I like skimmed through it and then like read it through it intentionally, and like obviously I don't know much about like the psychological research terminology and stuff like that, but towards like their conclusions and their basic findings, they were essentially saying like there's not enough data, they don't know enough, you can't say correlation's causation, and they were like, this is a tiny possibility, so like don't take it too far. And now we're at this point.
I got the correlation causation thing as well, kind of like murder and ice cream rates.
Yep.
Because I remember when I was in undergrad, that was like one of the first things we learned is that just because murder rates go up in the summer and so do ice cream sales, it doesn't mean that murder and ice cream are intertwined.
Oh, well, clearly you're a shill for big ice cream then.
Oh my God. I mean, I know Ben and Jerry's is having its moment now too with like saving them because Jerry left. Like, I guess someone is going after big ice cream.
Apparently, right?
I didn't know that was a thing until very recently. So thank you for enlightening me. I guess that'd be the kind of thing that if I wasn't a public figure, I'd be like, that would be my gold star of the day. I'd be like, apparently I'm a shill for big ice cream.
Yeah, right.
I'd just be laughing about it.
Oh my gosh. People accuse me often like, oh, you're just a shill for big pharma. I was like, I mean, if they're going to write me a check, let's have that conversation. I mean, but
they're not.
You know, like they're not. There's no money coming in.
They just have a lot of products that we happen to be using on a regular basis.
And I live in New Jersey where like a lot of like AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, they have the big plants here. And I drive by them and I'm like, hi, thanks for enabling me to drive on this highway safely. Okay.
I love it.
But I mean, Jake, we could do a whole podcast and maybe even we should, because I read the research in detail and meta-analyses is one of my research specialties. And talking about the conclusions they drew and didn't draw. And they even said in the discussion, like, we are saying this very clearly, like, you cannot draw any meaningful conclusions from this data set. So please don't. And then the study that they're citing from Europe is filled with operational challenges. They didn't even standardize the amount of Tylenol they were giving people. So how do you draw any meaningful conclusions from that? But if you go all the way back, like, back when they made this announcement, like, we're going to have the answer by September. That's not how science works.
No.
Science doesn't work on a schedule. I mean, like, my politics are not exactly subtle on this, but like, even if I agreed with this administration, I'm like, you're not going to have an answer by September because it's infinitely more complicated than that. But that tells me that you already knew where the smoking gun was, and you're going to make sure you find it right in time for the midterm elections. Neat.
Exactly. And it's fear mongering. It's just finding another group to be afraid of or to cause more fear and stigmatizing. It's just messy, to say the least. Like, I don't want to be yapping politics for our time, but it's probably no secret how I feel about autism politics either.
It always makes me think of like, this idea that, no, you know what, Jake, cut that part, because honestly, not like you normally do when you ignore me when I say cut this, actually cut this.
Got it.
So, we're going to continue to come together, and that's.
I think so too. I think we'll have multiple conversations for sure.
Oh, I love it.
But you have a friend in me.
I mean, that's cool. I get totally nailed it. Totally saved it. Well, you're a delight, and we're so honored that you came and talked with us today. We'll start wrapping up episode 1, and we usually do our wrap up questions. Jake, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, definitely. And I've got 2 questions for you, actually.
Okay.
Oh boy, look at you trying to sneak other questions in.
I have to. There's so many.
Okay.
But the first one is, I'm just going to ask you both. The first one is, what's your favorite word and why? And the second one is, who's your favorite Pokemon and why?
Oof. I have to think about the favorite word. That's hard.
You can give us the Pokemon first then.
My favorite Pokemon will always, at least currently, I feel like I have to be an OG and still say Charmander.
Oh,
Explains the card.
I just love fire Pokemon. Always have.
Charizard or Blaziken?
Charizard. I feel like the fire fighting type just never really worked for me.
Totally fair.
And I guess the fire chicken thing just wasn't, even though I love Gen 3, it just wasn't doing it for me. Although Blaziken raked that entire gen.
Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite word then and why?
You got me stumped on this one. I'm sorry. I have to think. I might have a good answer for you in like a day or two.
That's okay.
yeah. You would not be the first person to be like, oh, I forget what my favorite word is. Like 3 days later. Well, shouts to Blaziken. We love. All right, Haley, I'm going to ask you, if you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Superman.
Ooh,
Instant response.
say more.
Because Superman has always been peaceful. He does not hurt other people, and he always just wants what's good for the best of everyone too. And also all those powers. He can fly, he's super strong. He's got it all going on. And he also understands what it's like to kind of be like from somewhere else and try to hide that he's super rather than it's like, oh, like he's the opposite of other superheroes. He kind of like I feel like there's this whole explanation that I've seen more than once about how he's basically neurodivergent. And I'm like, I can get behind that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I think that part of the reason I asked that question is that so many superheroes, yeah, I mean, whether you're Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Double Life, I'm a brilliant scientist, but I got this other thing going on, or something a little bit more overt like the X-Men, like we are school for gifted youngsters. That's literally where Chuck and I met. But yeah, I think Superman is a great example of, I mean, quite literally masking.
Exactly.
He becomes Clark Kent to get along with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Superman has a strong code of ethic, and
that's always what I liked. And that makes the most sense. Like he's originally Superman. He's not like Bruce Wayne becoming Batman. Like it's the opposite. That it's all masking. It makes sense.
it really does.
On top of his very strong sense of justice and ethics, like you were talking about too. Like that's why I'm like, that's an easy question.
Right. Yeah. And it was a great one. We get Superman a lot, but this is the first time someone says Superman for that reason, which I particularly appreciate. So, all right. So then, Haley, as we wrap up this amazing episode, this is usually when we pass the mic over to you and to ask you to send our listeners home with some words of wisdom, if you don't mind.
Ooh, that's a big ask. Considering I feel like we've just been having fun. So I guess on that note, I want our listeners to end on a note of joy. Because I think so often when we talk about neurodiversity, we talk about all this heavy stuff, whether it's what's going on in the news or stigma, or you're just new here, find that joy. Just like we were talking about our favorite games and our collections and things that just make us happy, find that joy and try to take that with you wherever you go. And don't let anyone tell you you're too much for it. Like own what makes you you.
I mean, for someone whose initial response was that's too much, you gave a perfect, I mean, like, yes, joy is resistant. Joy is being your own self. What a perfect message to send our listeners home with. I mean, hot damn. I don't know, what is it? Case dismissed. I don't know what's the lawyery version of this.
We're adjourned.
Yeah, there you go. I object. So, wow. All right. Well, then that is going to wrap up this episode. I hope you learned a lot about Pokemon. I know I did. But also just got to experience us experiencing joy, which is frankly why we put these episodes out there. I know I had a blast today, so I hope you did too. So thank you as always to learning with us and learning from us, and as always for trusting us with your time. It means the world to us. Jake, you want to send us out?
Absolutely. Thank you everybody for listening. Haley, what a amazing pleasure it was meeting you, talking with you, and just diving so deep into things like Pokemon and growing up, especially in the education system in general. So thank you for your time and just your expertise, knowledge, everything.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.